So Bearnaise sauce is a challenge even for professional chefs. It's hard to make, it's hard to hold together. It falls apart very easily. We're gonna solve that problem right now. So about 3 days ago, I used this recipe to make Bearnaise sauce, and then I wrapped it up and I put it in the fridge, which typically would be a disaster. Well, take a look at this. So I took the sauce out of the fridge, I warmed it up on the stove, and it's just as fresh, just as good as the day that I made it. So you'll see how all this is done during the cooking demo, but first, let's take a look at our mise en place. Tarragon. This herb is a little bit difficult to find, but you should be able to find it at one of your local grocery stores, maybe Whole Foods. Check around and it should be there. Chervil. Now this is hard to find, right? I checked around the local stores, none of them had it. I had to order this from Amazon. The two things that are gonna really make the sauce, white wine vinegar, or if you have it, even better, white tarragon vinegar and white wine. You should get something that's drinkable. Not too expensive, but not too cheap. Absolutely, this is a French recipe. Of course, we're gonna use butter. And here is the magic ingredient that's gonna pull everything together, xanthan gum. This is an emulsification stabilizer, and it's gonna work its magic today. And of course, we're gonna include peppercorn and salt. Always season your food. And of course, we have the egg yolk. If you've ever wondered why there's egg yolk in so many sauce recipes, it's because egg yolk has emulsifiers, right? They grab onto the oil and they grab onto the water and keep it together. That's why. So the first thing that you want to do is to toast the peppercorns. Actually, that's not part of the traditional recipe, but it adds an extra layer of flavor. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now, after you've got the peppercorns toasted, you wanna go ahead and add the two main ingredients, the white wine and the white vinegar. I typically go with equal proportions, 1 cup of vinegar, 1 cup of white wine, and that adds just the right balance in terms of the taste. Okay, so once you've got that reducing, go ahead and add your chopped tarragon and chervil and let that continue to reduce. Now, in terms of the actual amount of reduction, you want to aim for 1 to 3 tablespoons, depending on how much you've added initially, right? And the way you check is that you tilt the pan and you check the amount of liquid that way. Okay, so once you're reduced to the amount that you want, and we'll move on to the next step, which is preparing the melted butter. Now, traditionally, the recipe calls for clarified butter. In this case, I'm not gonna go that far. I'm gonna melt the butter and that's fine. So after you've got the butter melted down, go ahead and add your xanthan gum. Xanthan gum works best when you combine it with a fat before you add it to the sauce. Okay, so now that we've got our reduction ready, we've got our melted butter, we're gonna put it all together using a hand blender. The hand blender has so much shearing force that it makes the emulsification much easier. Okay, the first step in actually creating the emulsification, take 2 egg yolk and put them into a container with a splash of cold water. The cold water will help to keep things cool. You don't want it to cook, right? You do not want it to cook. Okay, so now that you've got the egg yolk blended, go ahead and put in the reduction, right? The herb reduction, and get that blended as well, right? And now you're ready for the final step, which is as you continue to blend, slowly pour in the melted butter. Halfway through the blending process, you want to stop and add your seasoning. Go ahead and add your salt. And I also like to add a little dab of fresh lemon. As you pour it in and the blender does its work, you're going to start to see the sauce really come together. It'll happen right before your eyes. Congrats! You've just made Bearnaise sauce. It was so simple, so easy. The hand blender helps a lot, doesn't it? And let's not forget, the xanthan gum means that you don't have to worry about the sauce falling apart. Like you saw, I had it in the fridge for 2 days and it was fine. It still tasted fresh, right? This is the way to go.